Hi, so I am KB with The Beat. How are you both?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Uh, Doing well, thank you. So, this is such an incredible and expansive body of work. And I will say, one of my favorite kind of musical numbers throughout was No Honor Among Thieves. Can you talk a little bit about the technical ideas that really led to that diner scene and some of the creative challenges of getting everything kind of in perfect sync and symmetry? And I can start with you, Chaz.
No honor amongst thieves.
Yeah, episode 3. How many episodes have you seen?
Yes, that's the third
I've seen
episode,
all
isn't it?
of them,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Want
Because
to
I thought
see?
we thought you'd only
I've
seen
seen all of
two.
them. Mhm.
Right, okay. We got told we'd only seen
You
two
have
episodes.
Chad, we have to fly there and silence her. She knows everything. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Um, so that I'm trying to no honor amongst thieves. That's the
That's the
dynasty right between the two
It's
of
the
them.
dynasty. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah, that a lot of the inspiration from that for us on that scene was remember the film Heat?
Yeah.
Remember that film? So
Yeah.
yeah, the diner scene in there was highly sort of inspired from that. The sort of tension between the two. It was a bit of a sort of standoff, sort of guns under the table.
Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Yeah, Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, yeah. And the first time they
It's
meet
so
each other.
interesting because I found that there's so many things happening in the background of that scene that are so interesting. Like your focus is obviously on Gogo and like kind of what's going through his mind as being kind of the central character of the episode. But like
Yeah.
the people in the background is also just so wildly interesting to me. So I thought it was I thought it was shot very, very well, but also just very intriguing to kind of have everyone pause for a moment and just solely focus on the two of them. So yeah, so I also had another question, just, kind of if you had this particular body of work growing up, something very intricate and detailed. I mean, I picked up, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I picked up on some Shakespearean themes. There's a lot of different kind of sci-fi elements woven into like the music, and there's so many different things happening. But at the heart of it, it really is, in my personal opinion, a story that is really a nod to Black people, to Black culture, the struggle, and also has kind of hints of Black joy and Black love kind of woven into the layers of the trauma and making us think about life from a different perspective. So if you guys each kind of had this body of work growing up, kind of how do you think it would have impacted or changed your career? And I'll start with you, Junior.
You touched on a lot of points there. Yeah, it's very much Shakespearean, but in modern day Shakespeare, I'd say, in the sense of the influence of the way we try to communicate the message. Because Shakespeare himself, obviously a famous playwright, he used theatre and hijinks, comedy sometimes in order to convey a very important message, and obviously poetry. And that's something that's always kind of stuck with me growing up. I remember reading a lot of his plays and the message of Macbeth, and really kind of like really hitting me, and yeah, so there's certain aspects of jungle whereby the concept of winning ourselves to our own harm. That's what Banquo says to Macbeth at one point in Hamlet. In Macbeth, sorry. He basically, the line goes somewhat like, often the instruments of darkness tell us honest lies in order to win us to our own harm. And I remember when I was young and I read that and I thought to myself, it's such an interesting concept of winning oneself to your own harm. So whereby the very act that you're doing that you think is actually helping you is actually destroying you. And I think that is a common theme. And it's not just in like amongst us as Black people, amongst a lot of ghettos, in a lot of inner cities. That's a situation, unfortunately. We just drew upon our own experiences as Black men growing up in the city to kind of emphasize that. And yeah, in terms of like like how this would have probably impacted myself. Anyway, I can speak for myself in terms of, if this was around when I was younger, or this kind of like lookbook or somewhat of a documentary documenting the struggles and documenting almost like I won't say step-by-step guide, but a definite insight into a life that you can avoid. Who knows, when you're young and when you're quite you're ignorant, you're hard-headed. There's a lot of kind of isms and schisms when you're young, but I definitely feel that Jungle is like a wealth of knowledge from Chaz and myself that we've compiled through our years growing up, and we've tried to kind of like comprise it into one body of work, which is Jungle, almost like a letter to your younger self. And it's a very personal piece, as you can probably tell by seeing all 6 episodes. There's a lot of intricate and personal points to Jungle that I feel like I said is replicated amongst a lot of youth. And in our travels, and we've traveled around the world, it's not too dissimilar from the struggles growing up in London, as it is in New York, as it is in Guatemala, as it is in Nigeria, as it is in, there's a common theme and a common thread, throughout all of them. And that's lack of opportunity, desperation, ignorance, misunderstanding, amongst other things.
Well, I mean, it is an incredible body of work, and shout out to both of you for casting, because the child actor that plays Dan is so incredible. Like, I mean, I truly was like, wow, this kid is amazing, and just kind of his whole entire arc as well. So really, really great body of work, and just thank you so much for chatting with The Beat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.